These are the questions that you should be asking before you jump on the next bandwagon, because chances are you may find that although it seems like it's new and shiny, it's about the same work as the one you were already working on, that you already have miles, rather than starting new from scratch. Hey, okay, so today we're going to talk about 5 things to look for in your next side gig, okay? I get to talk with a lot of physicians and other professionals who are thinking about generating meaningful income outside of their main gig. And very often I stumble upon people who are very busy doing different things. But when you actually ask the key questions that I'm about to share with you, you see that they kind of either stumbled upon the side gig, somebody told them, oh, this thing makes money, and they're now sort of stuck in a rut and running around without being anywhere close to hitting their goals. So let's dive right into the 5 things. Number 1, the first question that I like to make sure that you ask yourself if you're thinking about doing a side gig is, what is the goal? Okay. And I know this sounds very basic, like, of course, duh, like I want to make money. I know you want to make money, but what is the actual goal? What will this money help you achieve in your life? What does this money represent to you? And what do I mean by this? Is this supposed to be income that you're just like using to amplify what you already had? Maybe just increase your savings? Are you looking for additional income just to pay a couple of bills? Or is your goal to be able to cut back your working time? In other words, you want to keep your income at the same level, but you're trying to work maybe 0.8, 4 days a week, 3 days a week, something like that. What number will actually make that possible? Steve Covey says in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, begin with the end in mind, right? So if your goal, let's just say as an example, is to cut back from work, okay? And let's say you earn, and I'm just going to use, easy numbers here. Let's just say $300,000, right? And that is working full time. If you're going to go to 0.8 FTE, in other words, working, say, 4 days a week, multiply the 300 by 0.8. I know this sounds very basic, but very often when we do that math and we realize what that change is going to mean, sometimes it changes our goals, and it helps us sort of realize, okay, if I'm really going to cut back, then I need to focus on gigs that could possibly help me replace that income that I will be losing if I cut down to 0.8. So 0.8 of 300,000. I want to say it's 240, but that would be horrible if I got it wrong. Yes, it is 240. Okay. All right. Yes, I actually know math. Okay. I actually know math. All right. So begin with the end in mind. Okay. Begin with the end in mind. Make sure you do your math. Get your math all right. If you're thinking about going down to 0.5, well, that is 150. So your goal should then be to make 150. For some people, just having something extra coming in will basically help offset what that does bring in. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make all that, but sometimes it helps to definitely know what deficit you'll be running. Say if you cut back from work, if you say to stop completely, and you can actually set concrete goals that actually mean something for your life. All right, so that was number 1, begin with the end in mind. Define what the actual goal is. Define what the income goal is. And I know on one hand, we have those who won't even set the goal. On the other hand, we have those like me who will be like, well, I want to make $1 million. Okay, here is why I'm going to try to convince you not to. And this work, personally, I have to work through this, okay? Because I'm kind of person that I'm like, yes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and I can. And so what ends up happening is I look at the goal and then it seems so large in my head that I end up just like throwing the whole thing away and not even doing anything with it, okay? So if you're just starting out with like side gigs, pick a number that even your brain can grasp to start, okay? Pick a number that even your brain can work with to start. And that number will vary from person to person. But if your brain is not even coming to terms with that possibility, chances are you probably won't even go after it. Number 2, what is the earning potential of the side gig you're looking at? All right. And where I normally see this show up is when I see people telling me that they're answering surveys. Listen, guys, listen. If you're answering a survey that's giving you $20 for 15 minutes, dude, what are you doing? I can get on an entire soapbox about surveys. Now, I have nothing against the survey companies. They're simply doing business, okay? But my dear, can you do something else in those 15 minutes? Can you come up with an offer? Can you do something else? Like, don't just answer surveys, for goodness sake. Ask yourself, what is out there that can actually help me get meaningful income? My whole point of this channel, of my Facebook page, of everything that I do online is to help doctors and professionals not settle for peanuts. Because if you answer a survey for $20 and you're taxed at 37%, you just answered the survey for $13. Go do the math and tell me that was still worth your time. Probably not. So what is the actual earning potential? Now, for example, when we bought our first short-term rental, it was a beautiful lakefront property. Bought it for about $400,000, $460 to be exact. And by the time we ran it for the first year, we made $87,000. Second and third year, $97,000 both years. Now, on that, the profit that came to us was usually somewhere around that $30,000. That, roughly speaking, and this is not exactly, okay? So when I ended up deciding to stop buying houses, because I honestly have, at least for this year, we didn't buy any house this year. The math that I did in my head was, do I want to do all that work for $30,000? And listen, this is a personal thing, okay? And I'm able to do that because I have now been doing this for many years. And as of the time I did the math, I was like, no, my energy right now should be spent on things that have potential of generating me upwards of $500,000 a year. And so should I spend my time working on something that will give me $30K a year in profit? Or should I focus the same energy on looking for example, buying businesses that could generate me $500,000 a year, even if it takes me a little longer than a short-term rental might have? I love short-term rentals. Anybody who knows me knows that I love our houses. I love decorating them. I love doing all that. But this year, we made a decision not to buy anything because our hearts, our minds were focused on our business acquisitions, because the earning potential there is significantly more. And if we can just not be busy and all over the place, we would actually finish what we started and get it done. So you should always ask yourself, what is the earning potential of the thing that I'm spending my time on? So if it is a coaching business that you're working on, you can ask around, okay, a coaching business, for example, if I build it up to, let's just say $100,000 a year, that's good, right? But if I have expenses, let's say I run ads, let's say I hire a team, how much will be left for me? Depending on how your operations are, those numbers could vary. So you should always think, how much can it make? How much can I keep? Because it is the net that will ultimately matter. And you should do that research early on. Talk to people, talk to coaches, talk to whoever it is that you're learning from. Ask them the hard questions, not because it's a way to say don't do it. It's just a way to know exactly what you're walking into so that you don't get disappointed. I remember hearing of a gentleman that, had built a business to over $1 million, not shabby at all. But he was, frustrated because out of the $1 million, he only got about $250,000. That's not bad. That's a 25% profit margin. A business doing 25% profit margin is not a shabby business, okay? But if you heard it out in the streets, oh, I made $1 million last year, all he kept of that was $250,000. Not bad at all, but it's a different picture. If you thought that him making $1 million meant that he also kept $1 million. No. Keep in mind, revenue and profit are two very different numbers. Don't get it twisted. Number 3, how much time does it take a typical newbie to get to this goal? So when you're talking to someone and they're particularly selling you on some kind of a business model, drop shipping, e-commerce, agencies, name all the possible things out there, you should ask the question, I know you've been doing this for the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. If I'm getting started today, what is a reasonable expectation if I actually put in the work? Because some people start and they don't put in the work. Let's be honest here, okay? You can ask them, you can say, okay, the people in your program, in your community, in your thing that are actually putting in the work, how long does it take them to get to X amount of money, to get to whatever? And here's the thing. Nobody can guarantee you any financial results. Any coach, anybody out there who's worth their stuff will not make you any actual promises. And I don't either, okay? Because everybody's different. I can't predict what's going to happen. Heck, the economy can change, markets can shift. So past performance is not an indicator of future results. However, as a savvy side gig wannabe, right, you need to know and have a good expectation that, okay, this doc over here, she put in the work, and within her first 4 months, she got XYZ. This other doc over here, she put in the work. It took her about a year, but she got there. Personally, I like to tell people, whatever you're doing, ask yourself the question, if it took me 4 years to get good at this, would it be worth my while? And if the answer is not yes, then you really need to think about it, right? Because a lot of things require a good runway. There's the mindset runway. There is the actual mechanics runway. If you're getting into anything that require marketing, you're going to have to build the reps. People don't talk about this that often, but I'm telling you because you are here. If you're going to learn how to market, how to show up on social media, how to, even buy real estate, heck, right? These things take time. Sometimes things don't work out exactly as you plan. Sometimes people are out the gate and they're winning all the way, and fantastic. But the question is, if it took me 4 years, will it be worth my while? If the answer is yes, then carry on, because then it may not take you 4 years. It may take you 2 months, or it may take you 3. But if you can't see the value of it, if it took you 4 years, then chances are you don't really think it's valuable. Because remember, residency took about 3-4 years and you stuck through it because you thought it was valuable. So the point that I'm making there is, ask yourself the question, if this took me 4 years, would I be willing to actually do it? Because that is your litmus test to know if you should actually venture into it. All right, so number 4 is, what will your daily involvement be? Here's another secret. Nothing sells itself. I began my side gig journey, if you may, doing direct sales. So I was with a network marketing company. And in that space, what you often hear people say is, oh, the products sell themselves. And honestly, to be honest, the company that I was with, I used their stuff on my face. It was like facial stuff. And yeah, like my face looked good. People were like, what in the world are you doing with your face? But even then, it still didn't sell itself. It still did not sell itself. I can tell you, we put in work. It was work, my dear. So even if the products are so good and it's like, oh my goodness, just do a demo and it will sell itself. No, the product will not sell itself. Okay, so don't fall for that trick. So ask the question, what will my daily involvement be? How much time would I have to spend? I recently started a project, and part of the sales pitch was that, oh, you can just set it and forget it. Well, I started, and let's just say I set it, and it was hard to forget it. So now that I've now seen that, okay, this thing is not set it and forget it. I actually have to monitor this thing. So now I'm asking myself, is it worth continuing? Back to the last question, am I willing to learn this for as long as it takes to get to the point of mastery to make it happen? So ask yourself, what will I have to do daily? Is there any marketing involved? Let's say you're talking about short-term rentals, Airbnb. So with Airbnb, for example, at the beginning, it's heavy. But when you actually get the property up and running, your daily involvement diminishes significantly. It doesn't go to zero. We have automations and things that help us run the property, but it is not zero. There are still calls from your housekeepers. There's still some troubleshooting that will have to be done. It's not passive, but it's not as backbreaking as it is in the beginning. So whenever you're asking people about what you're doing, ask them the hard questions. Doesn't mean that you run away from it, but at least you're walking in with a clear head, knowing that, okay, you know what, this may take some time, but I got this. I've done hard things. I went to residency. I went to medical school. I can do hard things. With the goal in mind of where we began, which was number 1, what is the goal, right? So number 5, what is the potential for leverage or delegation? Let's say you're buying rental property. You should be asking yourself, are there property managers in the area, right? If you're buying a short-term rental for tax purposes, you don't want a property manager, But if you're buying a long-term rental for just having a rental property, then yes, you should be asking yourself, are there property managers in the area? So when I talk about leverage or delegation, there are 2 domains or maybe even 3 that you can think about. Number 1 would be just managers, people that can actually just take the management off your plate and you're getting just a check in the mail or a deposit in your bank account. Now, keep in mind, such people, you usually have to pay them. So factor that into your numbers. Number 2, partial delegation. And I say partial, meaning that you are overseeing the daily activity, but you have people helping with individual tasks, like virtual assistants, people that report to you, but you are still the primary decision maker on a day-to-day basis. And then the next level, which I love, and by the way, as time goes on, we will be creating content on all of these things, virtual assistants and all of that. But automation, okay? How can you leverage AI automation in building out a system that will help you to save your time? So whenever you're thinking about any side gig, like basically ask yourself, at what point can I take myself out of the daily operations? What tools exist to reduce the burden on my time? Because ultimately, we're all trying to buy back time. Like, we're not trying to quit another job. I mean, your work as an anesthesiologist is already a lot of work. Your work as a cardiologist, OB, family practice person, whatever it is, pediatrician, you already are busy. You don't need an extra job. Like, I consider this the ideal, right? That you put in some work at the beginning. This work may be learning just the operation, learning how the thing works, because you don't want to just throw your money out there without really having a clue. So some work at the beginning, and then ultimately be able to kind of shave it off your plate and buy back your time, is a concept of sowing and reaping. When I think about so-called passive income, I don't like to use the word passive income. I like to use the concept of sowing and reaping, like farming, planting and harvesting. A farmer doesn't go to harvest and call it passive income. No, he did the work at the beginning. And yes, the plant grew and then gave him, but even at the harvest, he still has to do some work to harvest his coins, right? To harvest the fruit, harvest the plant. So if you can think about your side gig journey as a journey of sowing, planting, nurturing, and then harvesting, it'll save you a lot of disappointment when you realize that all these things that you see online, forget what people try to say. There is work involved. There is work involved, okay? Now, the skill becomes in then learning how to pick a side gig, how to hire people, how to delegate, learning all these skills that you probably already have a form of so that you're not involved in the day-to-day grind all the way. All right, so I gave you 5 questions to ask when you're thinking about a side gig. And honestly, this could also be 5 questions to ask when you're talking to somebody that is offering you some kind of coaching or teaching you about some kind of new vehicle, coach or program or whatever. These are the questions that you should be asking before you jump on the next bandwagon, because chances are you may find that although it seems like it's new and shiny, it's about the same work as the one you were already working on, that you already have miles, rather than starting new from scratch. How do I know this? Because I've done it, okay? Talk about shiny objects, I've taken them, all right? I'm trying to save you hassle so that you don't hop from side gig to side gig thinking that one thing is easier than the other, but that if you're starting from scratch, you at least know how to get this started, all right? I hope I get to see you on the next video. And if you have not yet liked, shared, or subscribed to our channel, make sure you do down below and send this to a friend, okay? Because I'm going to be sharing with you just the tips and tricks that I have learned in the past few years of running multiple side gigs and businesses and exploring different things and ideas, and now being able to help my colleagues do the same. All right, take care.